What's up everybody, hope you're having an amazing day so far. I'm your host Phil, thank you for watching this video, and today's video we're going to check out the MLC Subzero amplifier plugin by Bogren Digital in collaboration with MLC Amps. Let's get right into it. So as I teased in the intro before, Bogren Digital has released a new guitar plugin, and that is the MLC Subzero 100 plugin. Now, MLC is a small amp maker which is located in Poland, so they not only have amplifiers, they have also custom cabinets which they build by themselves. They also have some pedals, but I would consider the amplifiers their flagship product. And here we got the Subzero 100 and the Subzero 60, and from the Subzero 100 we finally have that in plugin format, which is really cool. This is also Bogren Digital's first venture into full-scale guitar amplifier suites. So we do not only have the one gain or the one knob thing with the amp knob, we have basically an entire section where we have pedals, where we have the amplifier, cabinet, and so on and so forth in itself. Let's take a look at the graphical user interface, and then we're going to dive directly into the tones, shall we? So let me quickly switch over here to my second monitor over here, so that we can see everything. Now, this is the VST version. This is going to be relevant in a bit, but for now, that's not that important. Let's instead open the standalone application, because that is more interesting for looking at the graphical user interface. So, it orients itself basically to what STL Tonality, what Neural DSP and other developers are doing nowadays. We have these different blocks over here. We have input output, and then we have the amplifier or whatever section we have in itself over here in the center of the page, and down below we have some utilitarian icons which we can click. Let's walk through the utilitarian items and the top before we then actually look into the gear itself. Now up here, this is really cool. This is kind of a snapshot feature. You can choose between A and B. So you can set up two different settings and you can A/B them, compare them. This is really useful if you want to kind of find out what's the right setting for your mix and then kind of decide upon what you want to do. So that's very cool. You got the input and the output faders. Input obviously mono, output stereo. Over here you got a small menu where you also can set up some preferences. We're going to get to this over here in a moment, what this recording means. Yeah, input, output, the usual stuff. Down below over here on the utilitarian icons, we have a tuner, which works really well, in my personal opinion. Not going to play through this. You can set up the hertz number over here. You can mute it. You got a metronome, which is more or less sophisticated. I really like this. You can just basically do your practices, your lead skills, and so on and so forth with this metronome over here. And this also comes very in handy for this feature over here, which is the record feature. Now, this was already present in the latest amp knob plugins. If you press on record and you riff off your riff and then you press again on record, it will save what you have just played into a file, into a folder over here, where you can basically, like, it's a wave file, or depending on your preferences, you can also set that as an OGG. So depending on, yeah, if you have like an idea, you know, on the fly, and you don't want to open your DAW, you don't want to kind of set the track up, record it, save the project, and so on and so forth, you can simply smack that record button, play a riff through, smack it again, you got the idea somehow fixed, and then you can use it later. You also have this ultra quality button over here, which you can flick on and off. What I really like about this plugin in general is that every single function is described once you hover the mouse over it. So you can see actually down below that when I hover the mouse over the gain, for example, it says gain distortion amount. Over here, depth, power amp depth. This is especially useful because not all of the stuff which are on this amplifier are self-explanatory. And that brings us basically to the next step, the amplifier in itself. So the MLC Subzero 100 is a 3-channel amplifier. The clean channel, which is channel 1, is inspired by an American clean sound. I assume that's something Fenderish. And then the other two channels, which are Drive 1 and Drive 2, are more inspired by Marshall's plexis, so to speak. So the Drive 1 channel, the channel 2, is more of that of a classic plexi sound, or at least a classic Marshall sound, and the channel 3 is then the hot rodded version of that. So, and on this channels 2 and 3, we got, for example, this M45 switch. I would not know what this is all about if I would not have the possibility to just hover the mouse over it and just read what it does. The M45 switch reduces gain to emulate a British style circuit. Alright. Also, by reading the product page, I know that this is basically putting down the gain to a level of that of a JCM. So, but it's just nice and convenient that you have everything at first glance. You can have a look at everything what's going on over here. Moving forward, over here in this pedal section, we got two boost pedals, or one is rather, I would say, rather a boost. One is an overdrive. So the Vanilla Sky to me is more like a boost type thing, while the overdrive is actually, you know, full scale overdrive, giving you additional distortion. Both are perfectly fine for hitting the amp a little bit harder, getting you in that high gain territory, in that thrash territory. Awesome. Looking at the cab, we got over here the normal cab setup, which we know from a lot of different other plugins. We got two microphones, which we can move around. I got this set up sort of in a fretman position over here. What I really like is that we have this two-dimensional field where we can see where the microphone is actually being placed, instead of just having these visual cues over here on the cabinet section. And yeah, you got different cabinets. You got two cabinets over here with different microphone positions. You got the possibility to turn them on, flip the phase. Here you got a speaker mix, which you can adjust. But the heart of this cabinet section, and the heart of this plugin actually, is the IRDX technology. The IRDX technology, we're going to listen to that in a minute, is basically trying to emulate the response true to that of a cabinet which is really connected to a power amplifier. There's some sort of compression, some sort of saturation going on dependent on how hard you hit the cabinet, and the IRDX technology is kind of trying to replicate that. And it does sound a little bit more lively than just playing through the static IR when you turn off the IRDX, so I like to leave that on, but we're going to listen to that in a moment. So, however, this is also one of the big selling points of this plugin, that they have this technology embedded. Next up, we got a graphical equalizer. Always fine and dandy to have that on board, always very useful. And last but not least, we got time-based effects, where we have a simple delay and a simple reverb. They do have their limitations, but we're going to talk about that in a moment, at least for my personal taste and preferences. Apart from that, very sleek design overall. I like it, but I'm very used to the STL tonality and also very used to neural DSP. So that is just the natural trend where guitar amplifier suites are going to from a design perspective. Now let's move on further to the sounds. Alright, so now I got the standalone application closed, I got the VST open, everything is set up. Let me quickly again load the default preset. And now let's talk about the signal chain very quickly. This is a parts caster which has a Seymour Duncan SH5 in the bridge. It's a great, I would say, medium to high output humbucker, very clear and very articulate and punchy. That goes into my Audient ID44MK1 interface. The gain knob on the channel where I'm at with the guitar is set to 0. Just to keep in mind, maybe my default preset now is a little less gainier than it is on other content creators' channels, simply because I just rolled that way. Okay, here is the sound straight out of the box. Now that might sound disappointing at first, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna sculpt our thrash metal tone. As I said before, this is more related to an plexi, like an older Marshall amplifier. They do not have that much gain on top, and also, as said before, my interface gain is set very low. So let's talk about the interface of the amplifier. We got a gate over here. I'm going to set that gate straight away a little bit lower. I like it somewhere around -70, just to give me a little bit more sustain before the gate cuts in. Then we got presence and depth over here for the power amp section. We can decide on how much of the negative feedback is being, kind of transferred to. So how much of an effect the presence and depth have. If you turn this to low, it will naturally be a little bit darker than if you have a high negative feedback loop signal. Then we got the gain and the volume, the gain just being what it is, the gain knob. We got the 3-band equalizer with bass, mid, and treble. We got this switch over here, which, as we have discussed before, turns this more into an JCM type of drive range or gain range. Then we got some bright switches, 2 different bright modes. If we have it at center, this is turned off. And we have the power amp section where we can choose between the power amps, the power amp tube, sorry, and then the master. And over here we got the channel, which we can select. So I'm just going ahead. I'm gonna full scale go gain at 11 because I already tested a little bit around, and that is the sweet spot for this particular amplifier on this particular channel. I like to bump the presence a little bit, bump the treble, take a little bit mids, bump the bass a little bit. I'm gonna leave this off because I want to have the full gain range, and I'm gonna set the bright off for the time being. Tubes are gonna be EL34. This is what we get. As you can hear, we're not quite there yet. We're getting closer in smaller steps, but we're not quite there yet. Therefore, we got this boost section over here. I personally like the Vanilla Sky a lot, so let's just simply go with that one. This is what it sounds like first straight out of the box. Yeah, so I like to bump the level a little bit, the drive. I really like to bump the white. Now, again, what the hell is white? If you hover the mouse over it, white knob, treble, EQ control. That's super useful. And yeah, I like to bump the treble. We're getting closer, we're getting closer. So, if I now want to have a little bit of a gain boost, I can do that also via the input slider. So let me just drag this somewhere around 60 dBs up. And there we already are in high gain thrash territory. This is really a good sound. I'm gonna take down the input gain again a little bit because I like to have a little less gain than more in doubt. This is just important for me to show you because all interfaces have different gain ranges. So if you have like a USB powered gain range, it might be that your signal will be of a higher input range or higher, hitting the guitar plugin harder because you don't have the headroom like a rather more or less semi-professional interface has, like the Audient ID44 or like the better Motu interfaces and so on and so forth. So just know this is a creative tool which you should use. Don't be afraid. I, for too many years, left it always at 0 thinking, oh, that has to be the perfect setting. No, don't be fooled by that. Use the input to your advantage. All right, this is the Vanilla Sky. Let's hear that again. And let's compare it to the OVD1. Okay, we're gonna adjust the gain so that we're gonna get a little bit more out of the OVD1. So in my personal opinion, the Vanilla Sky sounds a little bit more like a cleaner boost, while the Overdrive, like the Fascination Street OVD1, definitely does something to the low end. It kind of shapes the tone a little bit more, in my opinion. For now, I'm going to leave the OVD1 on there. And let's move on to the cabinet section. We're going to check... No, hang on. Let's not go for the cabinet section. Let's first go for the different channels which we got. So, this is channel number 2. We, of course, got a clean channel. For this, I will disengage this section by double-clicking. And yeah, this is what the clean sounds like. Quite a nice clean, I must say. Let's bump the volume a little bit on the clean. Even with the gain maxed out, it still retains the clarity of a clean channel, so it's not going like into full breakup and kind of crunch. It kind of has a little bit of a breakup character. So there you go. We're going to also listen to that in context of the delay and the reverb at a later point in time, but let's first move on back to the channel 2. What I really like about this is that it saves basically the settings which you have done on the respective channel. So as you can see, gain was maxed out on the clean. If I go back to this over here, yeah, gain is also maxed out, but the volume is different. You know, so it saves the settings per channel, which is really cool. And yeah, I dig that. Okay, now channel 3. This is the high gain lead channel. This is what it sounds like. Let's compare that to 2. Alright, you already can hear, even though we have the gain set very much lower, we still get more saturation out of channel 3 than out of channel 2. So this is basically the absolute high gain, you know, bolstering channel on this amplifier. I'm going to bump again the presence a little bit. It could be also that my volume is set a little bit too low. I cannot make that much of a noise right now at the moment, so forgive me if that's a little bit ear piercing. Gonna move to the EL34 tubes because I like them more, but we're gonna compare that in a moment. And I think on this channel I actually like the Vanilla Sky more. Let's take a little bit out of the low end over here. Yeah, like that more. Okay, now let's explore these different options over here. So the feed that determines how much of the negative feedback is coming back to the presence and depth controls. So yeah, let me play first with high. So you already could hear that it is darker when I set it to low settings compared to the high settings. Yeah, moving on to this switch over here, the M45. This is what it sounds like when it's turned off. It has way less gain, so of course we're going to leave that off because we want gain. Now the bright settings, here we go. This is now turned off currently. All right, so I like the bright 2 the best out of the bright settings, so let's just leave it that way. But there are differences. I hope they're audible through this demonstration which I'm doing. Moving on to the cab section. The cab section is really nice. We have 2 speakers over here, which we can kind of mix from a modern cab and a vintage cab. This is what the vintage cab looks like. Yeah, we're gonna listen to that in a moment. But for now, we got these 2 different speakers in this cab. We can set up and blend between the 2 different speaker combinations, and we have this microphone which we can move over here in the respective area. And it's nice that we have this 2-dimensional field where we can see what we're actually doing. I like that a lot. But the real trick with this over here is the IRDX technology. And the IRDX technology is kind of, as I said before, also one of the flagship features of this. The IRDX technology is impulse response dynamics is what they call it. And basically there's a little bit of a saturation compression thing going on over there when you play through it. Let me quickly showcase what it sounds like on and off. So this is currently obviously on. It's like this, there's a certain woofiness to it, but in a good way, which the IRDX introduces. It's a little bit more lively, it's a little bit more fatter sounding. It has a little bit more of that in the room playing through an amplifier feeling. So that is really cool. And the fact that you can turn it on or off is actually really cool. I like that a lot, that they give the user the possibility to decide. And you have this blend knob over here where you can set the IRDX amount. Let's crank it fully up. Doesn't sound pleasant to my ears, to be honest, but just for showcase purposes. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and compare the vintage cab to the modern cab. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up exact the same settings. So I got an SM57 just straight up on the cone. No, on the cap, sorry. And I got it now currently fully blended into the modern cab. This is what it sounds like. And after that, I'm gonna move it to the vintage cab while I'm playing. Now, without knowing what speakers are actually used, but if I would have to guess, I would say that the modern cab is perhaps an Mizabugi oversized slanted edition with the V30s in there, and the vintage cab being an Marshall 1960A with a T75 in there. That's what it kind of sounds like to me. Let me just try to do a blend of these two. What we're going to take the ribbon, we're going to put that a little bit off, we're going to set the axis a little bit off. Oh, I forgot to mention, also one cool feature, you can slant this around, so you can also go ahead and do your Friedman technique thing. So let's do a perfect mix out of these two settings. I would like to have a little bit more of the modern cab. Let me add a little bit treble. All right. There we go. This is the cabinet section so far. Let's move on to the graphic equalizer. Always useful tool. It's highly underrated how much you can shape a tone with that. Let me just totally exaggerate and make it absolute dogshit tone over here. Just to show you how much of an impact the equalizer can actually make. So I'm gonna do like this super V-curve thing over here. This is what it sounds like. So there you have it. Incredibly powerful tool. I'm not using it that often because I always try to dial everything in from the get-go, from the start. But it is powerful, and it is cool that it is included in the plugin, so you don't have to open up an instance in your DAW, do another plugin, instance into the track. So that's really cool that we have that over here. Next up, we got the time-based effects. Yeah, delay and reverb, nothing really special about them. They're kind of bread and butter time-based effects over here. So this is what the delay sounds like. We got a tap tempo, which I always enjoy and find incredibly important. Got a mix knob, a time knob, feedback, ping pong delay. Yeah, nothing special actually. So let's move on to the reverb. Yeah, let's listen to what it sounds like first, like this. So it has like a very slapback kind of tone. I like to set the mix down a little bit. I like to set the size up pretty big. No pre-delay. All right, so this sounds pretty okay. I can work with that. The low cut is okay, that works fine. Let me kind of exaggerate what it sounds like when I put it on 500 hertz. It thins out the low end response from the reverb, tail, basically. So let's put it there. The only thing which I think is missing on the reverb is a high cut. I personally like to dampen down the reverb so that it has kind of a more of an atmospheric thing going behind the guitars. Let me go to the clean channel. I promise we're gonna try some cleans over here, and then okay. Now this is what it would sound like on a clean channel. Oops, I messed that up. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it invites for, you know, for tasteful, clean playing and so on and so forth. So there's not much you could ask for more, you know, like that works really good. And yeah, now that we have the clean sound engaged, let's just go ahead and see how this over here works with the snapshot. So I'm not sure what sound is actually loaded on default in the snapshot B section, but in the A, we currently got the cleans. Wait a minute. So on B, there also seems to be... No, wait a minute. We got this over here. Let me completely change the settings to what we had before. Let's go over here. Let's push that. Let's push that. Take that. Let's go. Yeah. Okay, now we're talking. Now we got a high gain tone. What is a little bit annoying is that a click on the letter itself when it is engaged is not working, because when you are doing your playing, it's always like tedious to kind of move to the next letter and then click that instead. There should be like a change button which simply flips between A and B. If you press on the arrow, then you're going to copy the settings from the currently active take to the other take. So let's say, and I want to just adjust something and then do the A-B comparison. I don't have to set everything up on B individually. I just can click on this over here. Then B kind of just lights up a little bit. And then we got the same settings on A and B. So now I can just simply go ahead, for example, and say, what happens if we would turn on different power tubes and less gain, but therefore louder? And then I could do my comparison. All right, so I'm gonna dial in again my thrash tone, just gonna riff a little bit round, and then we're gonna call it a day. So let's go. All right, so now I got my thrash tone dialed in once again. I'm using the second channel this time, together with the Fascination Street OVD1, with my Royer SM57 setup, and no EQ applied. All right, so what I completely forgot to showcase is that the Subzero 100 not only has all the features which we can see over here, but it also has a lot of presets coming with it. So that gives you a good starting point on, you know, shaping your tone with this plugin. There are factory presets which are categorized depending on the gain structure, and there are also artist presets from acclaimed artists, from people like Isan from Emperor, Asa Holopine from Amorphous, among other people from Paradise Lost, Catatonia, Insomnium, Death, or however you pronounce that. So I think these are people who are kind of within the vicinity of Jens Bogren. So that's really cool. That's something special. It's not, you know, the usual people who do the presets like Rabia Masad, you know, no disrespect, love those guys, but it's also interesting to hear what other people bring to the table. So, without further ado, let's grab one of the clean presets, the clean breakup, and let's see what it sounds like. You might notice that my input gain is set up a little bit higher, especially the metal presets like that when I have the input set up on a little bit higher on them. So sweet clean. I suck hairy donkey balls when it comes to clean playing, so sorry guys. Let's go to the crunch. We're gonna go for 80s rhythm. That sounds like something which I would like. That's cool. That sounds good. I like that. Let's move on, however, to metal. That's what we're here for. I think I like the metal rhythm too a lot. Let's take the input knob actually a little bit down to 3. That sounds pretty good. Pretty cool preset. Let's go to the lead and let's go to metal solo. Sounds good. Now let's go to Matson. He also collaborated on some IR packs, if I remember correctly. All right, let's call it a day for that, and let's get to my personal conclusions. So that was the MLC Subzero 100, and I must say it's a nice addition to the existing, let's say, palette of different amplifiers. What I like about the MLC Subzero is that it's not fully tailored towards the metal community. I mean, obviously it has a high gain channel. It is capable absolutely of doing metal tones. However, the core basis of the MLC Subzero 100 is rather that of an plexi, of a hot rodded plexi in that sense. So it caters towards a lot of different genres. You can do great cleans with it. You can do nice crunch tones. You can do a high gain. I think Bogren Digital selected the right partner for this type of collaboration. The price is currently at an introductory price of 80 euros. I think that's fair given the prices which you pay for the Neural DSP and the STL tonality plugins. So that is kind of in the middle, and it also kind of places itself in the middle of that. It has some cool features which are unique to this plugin, and it's a good start into full suite plugins for Bogren Digital. I think it's worth the money. I'm not sure if I will personally buy this because I have so many stuff going on. I have so many plugins already, but this is definitely a cool addition. If you are in the market for buying your first guitar amp suite, or you really love this tone, of course, then this is obviously for you. Yeah, I can full-heartedly recommend this plugin. It sounds great. It has great features. I love the fact that you have this record button on the standalone application, so that is great. With that said, I'll put a link down below in the description where you can check out the trial mode. You can trial this for yourself for 14 days, so you can test this, demo this, put it through its paces with your own setup, with your own guitar. That's always important. Take my word with a pinch of salt. You have to test it in the end. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it brought something to you. I'm way behind schedule with my videos. I'm just doing videos from time to time as I feel comfortable doing them. Sorry for that I'm not super consistent in my video output over there. But thank you very much for the support you have given me. Means a lot to me. And yeah, hopefully I could bring something useful to the table. With that out of the way, have fun and stay metal.